Hello and welcome to Elizabeth's Whispering World. My name is Elizabeth, but you can call me Ellie or Liz. And today I'll be reading you while I have a little bit of rain in the background. I try to make like a cozy ambience because personally I love when it's raining outside, the light is low, and I get to read. So, first of all, I'm gonna serve myself a little bit of mineral water. I know that I'm gonna be thirsty. Right now it's raining season here in my country, which I love because I don't have to get out of my house to go to work or to go to school. But when I had to go to work or to school previously, I like to get out of my house. I used to hate it because one of my favorite things to do is just to, whenever it's raining of course, just to stay in bed, all cozy, watching series or movies. So yeah, I think that it's actually stopping. Probably it will be and stop soon. In case that happens, I guess that I'll just have like in rain audio to get in the background while I finish reading. Give me just a second because I think that one of my neighbors is having music blast on their speakers, which I was not able to perceive before due to the rain. I swear to God that every time that I try to record something, it seems that everybody wants to start doing noise. But whatever. So today I'll be reading you The Mummy Case, which is part of the book series of the Hardy Boys. It's number 63 volume. Why are we starting with the 63? Because it's the only one that I have. I mean, I also have some other English books, but I chose this because it has a sentimental value behind it. Let me give you a little bit of context. When I was in elementary school, my parents, I used to go to a bilingual school, a private school, so that's where I learned English. And every year for the beginning of the school year, normally I will have to get a book. Sometimes they will sell them at the school because they chose them, but this was the first year that they allow us to choose the books for ourselves. So my parents took me to this bookstore that is really popular here in Mexico, that it's called Gonbil. So I just randomly picked this one. I mean, to be honest with you, that was like in 2013, and I don't remember what made me choose this book or what made it like the best choice. I mean, honestly, I was not really rational while picking it up, choosing it, because I got the volume 63 instead of buying the volume 1. But I mean, what I actually have, like, I actually have great memory of this book because my teacher in 5th grade was the best teacher ever. He give me a second. Sorry about that, I just live near an airport, so some airplanes will normally be passing by my house. So unfortunately he passed away a couple of years ago, but he was like the best teacher ever, I swear to God. With him I got to practice English in the mornings before the day started. I mean, normally we will have half the day in Spanish with the same subjects as the half of the other day in English, but I used to get early to school, so when I got to my classroom he was already there, and we will like talk, just randomly talk about a lot of things. And I mean, I understood the language and I knew how to read it and speak it, but I was not that fluent. And I guess that he encouraged myself to start speaking a little bit more. So, this whole background story that you didn't ask for, but I wanted to share, we're gonna start. Let me do a little bit of tapping. I mean, I'm still practicing tapping. It's one of my favorite triggers, so I hope that it sounds good. I would love to have like nails, like larger nails, to be able to have better sounds while tapping. But I'm just recovering from my contact dermatitis. Now I'm allergic to gel, apparently, semi-permanent gel, and that's something that I wouldn't actually even wished on my worst enemy. It's like hell. I mean, it's just under your nail bed, and it's awful. I mean, you have this constantly itching while it also feels like it's burning, and it looks awful, and it's really something that I never thought that I would experience. And it's not nice because I have been getting my nails done since I was in high school, and that's one of the things that I used to enjoy the most. I used to do it like a self-care routine. It made me feel beautiful, and to the fact that I actually work with a computer, I mean, looking at your nails being nicely done actually lifts your mood a lot. But yeah, things happen, and I guess that we just have to accommodate ourselves to the new routine. Okay, so this the complete collection of the Hardy Boys mystery stories by Franklin W. Dixon has a total of 66 books. It actually seems to have like a spin-off series. It's called The Hardy Boys Back to Back. And well, in the year that I got this book, which is 2013, by then it only had one book. I don't know if it has any other additional books to that series. When 5 priceless Egyptian statuettes are stolen from a New York museum, the Hardy Boys travel to exotic Egypt, the ancient land of Pharaoh's curse. En route, the boys are asked to safeguard a mysterious mummy and find themselves tangled in a web of international intrigue. While searching for the missing statuettes, the Hardy Boys fall into the clutches of a gang of sinister thieves and political rebels and risk losing the mummy forever. That is the connection between the New York theft and the Egyptian. What is the connection between the New York theft and the Egyptian mummy? In an exciting spin along the Nile, the young detectives uncover a secret hiding place with countless stolen treasures and realize they must get to the police fast. So today, I'll be reading you the first chapters. I thought that I'll be doing like a series until I finish the book. A random fact is that I have never finished this book. I have tried to, but my attention span is not that good, I guess. I just get bored of it. And I mean, it's not that the story is bad. I actually have enjoyed it, but I just stopped reading it at some point. So my goal is to finally finish this book, and you're gonna come with me in the aisle. You're gonna come along with me in that journey. Chapter 1, Museum Mystery. Frank Hardy. Oh, before I start, I would really appreciate if you leave me in the comments the answer to this question. Would you like me to read you also in Spanish? I mean, I could also do that. I could read you in Spanish as well, in case that you want to. Just let me know in the comments. Thank you. Frank Hardy tossed a baseball into the air, brought his bat around in a flashing arc, and hit a line drive that his brother Joe caught with a quick backhand step. Joe grinned. Not bad, huh? Just show me anything and I'll get it. Pure luck, Frank retorted. That one has space hit written all over it. The boys were practicing in their backyard for their high school team's big game with Bayport's arch rival, Greenpoint. Just then their Aunt Gertrude poked her head out of the kitchen door. Frank and Joe wanted on the phone. Who is it, Aunt Gertrude? Frank asked. Your father. Come quickly, he's calling long distance. Gertrude Hardy, who had been living with a brother oh my god, I'm sorry about that. Gertrude Hardy, who had been living with her brother's family for quite some time, waved impatiently. She had a habit of disguising her fondness for her nephews behind a crisp, no-nonsense manner. Frank and Joe ran into the house. Frank picked up the hall phone while his brother went to get the extension in his father's study. "Hi, Dad," the dark-haired 18-year-old boy said. "What's up?" "A new case?" Mr. Hardy replied. "Are you both there?" "Yes." Joe spoke into the receiver. "Go ahead." Fenton Hardy, the famous private detective, sounded serious. "Listen carefully. I'm at the United Nations in New York, working on an assignment. Working on an assignment for one of its members. I've learned about a plot to overthrow that nation's government. That's all I can say because it's highly confidential. A leak might trigger an international crisis, and Uncle Sam would be right in the middle of it." "What can we do to help?" Joe inquired excitedly. "Nothing on this case," Mr. Hart replied, "but there's something else I'd like you to handle for me. Go to New York tomorrow morning and see curator Henry Wilcox at the Egyptian Museum. Some statuettes were stolen from the collection. Wilcox wanted me to look into it, but I can't because of this UN investigation." "Sure, Dad," Frank said. "We'll be glad to. If you need help, call Sam Bradley." His father added. Bradley was one of his top operatives who had assisted the Hardys on many of their assignments. Mr. Hardy now asked to speak to the boy's mother, and Frank and Joe returned to the yard. They resumed their baseball practice, and Joe hit a couple of rounders. "We've worked on a lot of thefts," the blonde 17-year-old amateur detective said, "but we've never chased ancient Egyptian statuettes before." Frank grinned. "I hope we catch them. With Dad busy on another case, I'd hate to let him down." Aunt Gertrude had come into the yard to hang up clothes. "Ancient Egyptians, eh?" she sniffed. "Next thing I know, you'll be playing baseball with a mommy. If a mommy can hit, we'll put him on the team," Joe declared. Next morning, the Hardy boys had an early breakfast, then set off on the long drive to New York City. When they reached the museum, they parked their yellow sports sedan in the garage underneath the building and went upstairs. They identified themselves to one of the staff members and asked to speak to Mr. Wilcox. After a brief conversation on his intercom, the man told them to go to the curator's office. "Take the men's stairs," he directed, "then go down the hall past the weapons room. Mr. Wilcox's office is at the very end." Frank and Joe walked between two replicas of an Egyptian sphinx, flanking the staircase, reached the next floor, and went down the hall. As he passed the weapons room, they saw an arsenal of ancient arms, swords, bows, spears, and daggers, hung on the walls, and chariots stood in the middle of the room. "There's enough military hardware in there to start a war," Frank commented with a grin. Then he knocked on the curator's door. Wilcox opened it. He was a tall man wearing rumpled clothing and horn-rimmed glasses. The boys recognized him at once. A famous archaeologist, he had been photographed by journalists and television crews at Dixon, Egypt. "You must be the Hardy boys," Wilcox said as he shook hands with the visitors. "Your father told me you'd come. I'm glad you can take this case." He led the young detectives into his office, motioning for them to sit down. Then he settled himself in a swivel chair behind his huge desk. "Tell us about the robbery," Joe began. "All we know is that some statuettes are missing. The pieces disappeared one night from the statuary room," Wilcox declared. 5 small golden statuettes of the ancient pharaohs. He handed the boys some number of photographs. Here they are. It happened last week. Does the museum have an alarm system? Frank inquired. The curator noted, but it didn't go off. Perhaps it was an inside job, Frank conjectured. The thief could be someone who works here and knows how the alarm functions. Wilcox noted. The police arrived at the same conclusion. That's why he had the system changed immediately. Now even the guards don't know how it operates. I was advised to keep it a secret. If a thief is one of my staff and makes another attempt, he'll trigger the alarm. The police are working on the case? Joe asked. Yes, but I feel it will be good for an outsider or two to help. You can mingle with the staff more instantly and might find out something the police didn't. People are wary when they talk to the authorities. They might speak more freely to you. We'll be glad to do all we can, Frank said. Good. As for the robbery, I'll have the guard describe it to you. Wilcox snapped on his intercom. Have Ahmed Ali report to my office, he said. Ali was a small, dark Egyptian with black eyes. In a nervous manner. I was on duty that night, he testified. I saw and heard nothing. The statuettes were there when I checked the room early in the evening. Next morning they were gone. Where were you during the rest of the night? Frank inquired. Checking the other rooms, the Egyptian said defensively. It wasn't his fault. Give me a second. It wasn't his fault, Wilcox put in. His partner on guard duty became sick and had to go home. It takes 2 men to patrol the entire museum, but Ali had to do it alone that night. After a few more inconclusive answers, the man left. He wasn't much help, Frank said, but I suppose he's our one and only suspect so far, simply because he was here at the time of theft. The police questioned Ali and found nothing, Wilcox declared. Also, we've never had any reason to mistrust Ali. His a loud clanking reverberated throughout. A loud clanging reverberated through their building and interrupted the curator's sentence. On a control board near his phone, a red light began to flash. Wilcox stared at it in surprise. The alarm, he exclaimed. Somebody's in the weapons room. He jumped up from his chair and headed for the door with the hard disk closed behind him. All three hurried to the weapons room. Ali was standing near the wall, holding an Egyptian dagger in his hand. The sharp blade gleamed as he stood perfectly still, an astonished expression on his face. What are you doing? Wilcox demanded sternly. The guard slowly lowered the dagger. It was loose on the wall, so I took it down to straighten the jump. I didn't realize that it was enough to set up the burglar alarm. It never went off before. Well, it does now. See that thing are not removed from their displays in the future. I will, Ali murmured as he put the dagger back on the wall. Then he quickly went out of the weapons room. Joe examined the clasp holding the dagger. I don't see anything wrong with it, he declared. Neither do I, Frank agreed. I think Ali was fooling with the dagger for his own purposes. I wonder if he was trying to steal it. Thought that would be pretty stupid with us here. Wilcox agreed, nodding his head. Well, let's go back to my office. I have my 2 assistant curators coming in. William Cullen and Najib Salim, and I'd like you to speak to them. After Wilcox was seated behind his desk again, he turned off the burglar alarm, then inquired over the intercom about Cullen and Salim. He was told that the 2 men had not yet returned from a Metropolitan Museum of Art, where they had been inspecting a new shipment of Egyptian artifacts. While we're waiting, Wilcox suggested, I'll show you something that might interest you. What's that? Joe asked. The mummy of an unknown Egyptian pharaoh who died about 3,000 years ago. It was stolen. Okay. That was for chapter. In here we have a image of the scene where Ali had removed the dagger from the display. Well, not an image, an illustration. Let's go with chapter number 2. The Pharaoh's warning. Stolen? Joe gasped. Another robbery here at the museum? No, Mr. Wilcox replied. This mummy was taken out of Egypt by an unscrupulous archaeologist many years ago. We purchased it in good faith. However, when Jim Salim joined our staff, he proved to me that the mummy really belongs to his country. So we're preparing to send it back. Salim will accompany it and make the official presentation in Cairo. He'll sail the day after tomorrow aboard the freighter Admiral Halsey. Mr. Golden contends that a ship is the safest way to transport. Wilcox continued. He's in charge of the mummies in the museum, so I'm taking his advice. Would you like to see the mummy? Frank and Joe agreed enthusiastically, and Wilcox took them through the hall onto an elevator that carried them into the basement. In one corner, a specialist was fitting bits of broken pottery together. Two men were measuring a small sphinx, whose damaged head lay beside it, while a woman was sorting out a box full of jewelry. Wilcox led the way to the opposite side of the room, near the stairs. Here, all by itself, the hardy saw an ornate Egyptian case or sarcophagus. The lid bore the likeness of the pharaoh who had been buried in it. The headdress extended down to his shoulders, meaning a gown that reached his feet. The face was shown in repose, its features carefully painted in brilliant colors. The chin terminated in a long, narrow berth, and the arms were crossed over the chest, with one hand holding a scepter, the other a flail. Would you know the meaning of the scepter and the flail? The curator asked. We've both studied Egyptian history in high school, Frank said. The scepter is a symbol of the pharaoh's right to rule, and the flail, Joe added, means he had a right to knock anybody on the head who didn't obey. Wilcox smiled. You're good students as well as good detectives. Now let's open the case. With the curator's help, Frank and Joe lifted the lid and placed it carefully on the floor. Meet our mummy, Mr. Wilcox said. I'm sorry I can't introduce him by name, but we still haven't figured out who he was. An eerie feeling penetrated the Hardys as they gazed down at the pharaoh who had been dead for 3,000 years. He was wrapped from head to toe in a linen cloth, with features of his face painted on the bandages. Through holes in the linen, two artificial black eyes were staring at the boys. He almost looks alive, Joe stammered, as if he were about to say something to us. That's what the ancient Egyptians intended, Mr. Wilcox replied. They wanted the embalmed mummy to be as lifelike as possible for its journey to the next world. Embalmed? Frank asked. The pharaoh was embalmed? That's correct, the curators declared. It was a complicated process that's still somewhat of a mystery. but we do know that most of the internal organs were removed. Then the body was put in a jar of salted water. Sometimes preservatives were used, such as resin and natron. And then Joe asked, I mean, you can just salt a guy in a jar and expect he'll last forever. Wilkes laughed. Of course not. The ancient Egyptians filled the body with other chemicals, wrapped it tightly and put it in its case. The burial site was the Valley of the Kings. That's up the Nile near Luxor, where they buried the pharaohs in the cliffs, isn't it? Frank said. That's right. They covered the tombs to keep them from being found, but grave robbers got into all of them, except the one of the king Tutankhamen. John smiled. We saw the exhibition of King Tut's treasures. He said it was fantastic how well everything was preserved. Frank noticed hieroglyphs on the case above the mummy's head. Do you know what this means, Mr. Wilcox? It's the Pharaoh's curse. Frank felt a cold chill run up and down his spine. He stared at the mummy, mesmerized for a moment, then shook himself out of his trance. What curse? What's this guy saying to us? I'll translate into verse. The curator replied. It goes something like this. Cursed is he who touches me, he soon shall die, whose face I spy. So shuddered, it gives me the creeps. The ancient Egyptians wrote this type of warning before because they thought it would protect the mummy. Wilcox went on. Unfortunately, it didn't help much. It worked in the case of King Tut, Joe pointed out. If I remember correctly, Lord Cardinal Warren, the British aristocrat who financed the search, died shortly afterward. That's right, Frank added. He didn't even see the mummy of Tutankhamen. It was found later. On the other hand, Wilcox said Howard Carter, who directed the excavation, lived to a ripe old age. Joe grinned. If King Tut put the mummy on anybody, it should have been Carter. The pharaoh knocked off the wrong man. That's about it, Wilcox agreed, but don't underestimate the power of pharaoh's warning. Many people still believe in it. Frank and Joe replaced the lid of the mummy's coffin and then they all went back to the curator's office. Two men were waiting for them. One, William Colden, was short, rotund, and had a friendly smile. The other, Najib Salim, was a tall, thin man with a dark complexion and a solemn expression on his face. Although he wore a Western dress, he was unmistakably Egyptian. We were caught in the traffic, Colin apologized after the introduction had been made. That's why we're late. Wilcox nodded. I showed Frank and Joe the mummy in the meantime. They're here to investigate the theft of the golden statuettes. Salim lowered at the hardest. Have you discovered the culprit? So far we haven't much to go on, Frank replied, except for maybe Ahmed Ali and the dagger. He described the event in the weapons room after the alarm had gone off. Ali could have stolen the statuettes, he added. He knew about the alarm system the museum used to have, and he was on guard that night. Wilcox got to his feet. I'd like to stay longer, he said, but I have to catch a plane out to Chicago for a conference of archaeologists. In fact, I'm the main speaker. You boys know what you have to do, so I'll leave the investigation to you. What about the mummy? Colin asked. You and Najib are in charge, Wilcox replied. See that the case is prepared for shipment to Cairo and cooperate with Frank and Joe in the matter of the stolen statuettes. Wilcox left, and Colin excused himself to make a phone call. Najib Salim stood up and paced around the room. Perhaps we should have Ali arrested at once, he proposed. We can't, Frank said. There is no real evidence against him. Even though we saw him holding the dagger, we don't know what he intended to do with it. Then we should dismiss him, Why give him another chance to steal? The Egyptian's vehemence began to arouse Frank's suspicion. Maybe Salim's involved in this and it's looking for a scapegoat, he thought. The same idea occurred to Joe, who made a mental note to keep an eye on Salim. Just then, Golden returned from his office. I talked to Kaido, he had announced. They're ready for you and the mummy in a jeep. How's the investigation coming along? He asked Frank and Joe. Frank shrugged. At least our prime suspect so far, but we don't have any proof. What do you think, Mr. Golden? I think we should have a cup of coffee, the assistant curator replied, and go over the events point by point. I'll call the kitchen. Will you boys join us? I'd prefer soda, Frank said. There's a machine at the end of the hall. How about you, Joe? That's fine. Frank went out and came back with 2 colas. He handed one to Joe just as the woman who ran the museum's kitchen arrived in the office. She was an attractive blonde in her late 20s, whose somewhat sharp features softened for a moment as she smiled at the boys. I'm Norma Jones, she said. If you want anything from the galley, just say the word. Golden settled himself on the sofa with Salim beside him, and the Hardys occupied the chair in front of the desk. Norma Jones left and closed the door behind her. The police interrogated the staff. Golden began, but no one could shed any light on the matter. I suppose they searched the premises for clues? Joe inquired. They did, Salim replied. It took hours, since there was no sign of breaking and entering, but suddenly a strange look came over him. His pupils dilated, and his breath came in short gasps. He shuddered and ran his fingers around his collar in an effort to loosen it. Mr. Salim, Frank exclaimed, are you okay? There was no reply. Instead, the Egyptian jerked to his feet and lunged toward the young detective. His finger reached for Frank's throat in a convulsive grip. The chair went over backward and the pair landed on the carpet. Savagely, Salim tried to strangle Frank Hardy. And that's the end of chapter 2. We'll leave it there, and then I'll continue in another video. I thought that maybe on Mondays I can upload the continuation of the book until I finish it, and yeah, that will be pretty much it. As I mentioned, I will really appreciate if you let me know in the comments if you would like me to read you in Spanish as well, and I hope that you have enjoyed this so far. I would have loved that the rain would have continued to the end of the video. I guess I'll just add some rain background noise, background sound to the parts that the rain is no longer noticeable. But yeah, that will be pretty much it. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day, night, or afternoon, whenever you see this. And I will really appreciate as well if you made it so far that you will leave a like or subscribe to my channel. Take care.